I'm Jim Stovall, and I think that's right. And we're in Oklahoma City, and
And this is the Red Cup.
yeah, this is the Red Cup Cafe, and it's a really strange, quirky coffee shop that attracts lots of strange people. And let's see, Jim asked me.
You've had previous experience in filmmaking, is my understanding.
Oh yes, yeah. I played a very small part in. Was it The World of Human Development? Was that the name of the film? I was in Egypt in 1976 when Marshall and Kathy Jones came to do their initial footage, to take their initial footage, and and then also spent just a couple of days like helping with the editing. I think the following summer, it took them like 2 years to put the whole thing together, and wasn't widely distributed until like 79 or 80, I think. But at one point in the World of Human Development, there's a work day going on in Bayard, and it catches the back of my head in the work day. And so
is that where they were digging the well?
It was another shot. It's the well digging took place like a quarter mile outside of the actual village, and this was a work day right smack in the middle of the village. And all I remember is lots of people and stirring up lots of dust. That's all I remember.
So would you by any chance remember an Egyptian guy who was a journalist and was on the staff? His name was Ahmad Badawi. That ring a bell with you?
That does not ring a bell with me.
Who else was there in Egypt at that time?
Well, Fred and Sarah Buss.
Oh.
I can tell a quick story
Go
about
ahead.
that. The story was that I had been in the student house. So I was like on the faculty of the student house at age 19, taking care of these younger people who were not much younger than I was. And I had attended the University of Illinois Chicago Circle that year that I was in the student house. And I had failed French. And I went to Charles Lingo and I said, Charles, I want an assignment where I can learn a foreign language. That's all I wanted. And I was thinking, maybe Paris, that would have been cool. And so when I learned of Egypt, I mean, it was very exciting because I think El Bayad was like number 12 on the list. They were like it was very early on in the Human Development Project work, and Sarah and Fred Buss did the groundwork there in El Bayad in Egypt. We were invited by a Coptic church. Bishop Samuel and Bishop Athanasius were our primary contacts, and then but that summer of '76, I got the assignment and I was very excited. I had gone back to my home in New Orleans, trying to raise some money and get ready, and I just kind of breezed through Chicago, and I didn't get all the contact information. So I was 19 at the time, and I arrived in Cairo. And all I had was a hotel name. And so I arrived about 1 o'clock in the morning, stumbled into this, but fortunately the taxi driver took me to the right place. And I said, is there a Fred and Sarah Buss here? And they said, yes. So they rang their room, and Fred comes stumbling down with his, I don't know if he had his robe on, but he comes stumbling down, and he says, glad to see you. So it was just kind of it was an exciting entrance into Egypt. But he took me to this rooftop garden bar, which was right across the street from the hotel where they were staying. And I just remember looking out over Egypt. And again, I was 19, and this was like, man, this is cool. I had arrived. I had made it. This was about as exciting as it got. It was being in Egypt at 1 o'clock in the morning. And when I think about what followed, it was exciting stuff.
How'd you first? What pushed you first to get connected with the Institute and the Order, and when that happened?
My dad was a Methodist minister, and my sister was involved in the Order. Sally Emmerich, she shacks up with Dick in Chicago nowadays, I can remember. I think you were involved in editing IE, the Institute publication, Ecumenical Institute publication. And my dad I think he had taken a PLC a couple of years before, but I remember seeing the IEs on this magazine rack at our home. But my sister had gotten recruited to take RS1, and she came home one weekend, and again, I was 15 at that time, and she said, "I'm going to be a nun." We knew she was joking, but she wasn't really joking. I mean, she was going to be joining this order. I mean, she knew right away that was for her, and so she taught me going into taking this course, this RS1, and it all resonated with me, and I felt drawn to it. I was thinking about this. Bruce Donnelly was the first teacher, I believe, that weekend. And the coolest thing to me was that on Saturday, Bruce shared with us that he had just learned of his assignment to come to Houma, Louisiana, which is where this course was taking place. He had just learned of his assignment on Thursday evening. And there was something about that was really cool to me, that you would get an assignment on a Thursday night and then travel the next day. Clearly it was people on a mission, people with a purpose, and I was, in suburban New Orleans and experiencing all the frustration that teenagers experience in 1972. And so I felt very drawn to the order almost right away. One of the short stories that sticks in my mind, I just started hanging out at the religious house there in New Orleans, 72, 73, and Herman and Joy Green were there, and they were wonderful people to work with, and they helped me make sense of things, a lot of things. But during that time, Joy became pregnant, and she had the baby died, I think, before, either in infancy or while giving birth or something like that. And I remember being blown away by the idea of giving thanks for a completed life that had lasted for 1 or 2 days. And to me, that was just it was a powerful event, watching them participate. I mean, clearly they were grieving, and they were horribly upset by the death of this infant. And yet I was just impacted, deeply addressed by their ability to make sense of something that cannot be made sense of. That's just one of my early memories. I tried to join the New Orleans house when I was 15, but my parents wouldn't let me. And they moved away from New Orleans by about 5 hours. And I went with them, stayed in touch, went to summer 72 and summer 73. And then in January of 74, I graduated from high school and went directly into the New Orleans house. And I was in the New Orleans house for a year and a half, and then I was in the student house, and then Egypt for a year. came back to Chicago, finished school, I got a degree from the University of Illinois, and then in 79 went to India, and I do remember hearing a summer lecture by Slicker, just talking about the 232 in Maharashtra, and again, it was just very exciting to hear about that, and it was exciting to be a part of it. So I was in there in '79. I don't know the exact timing of. I guess Molly was '76. So around '79, we were really trying to implement the 232, and so I was in India for 2 years. And my first year, I was mostly on the road. I was in Aurangabad district, so that was outside of Maliwada, and I was with Adrian Rhodes, and Adrian was a crazy man to work with, but we had a lot of fun together. We were broke all the time. I had like $200 in traveler's checks, and frequently I'd have to cash them out so that we could pay the stipends and buy food for our staff. I mean, it was always hand-to-mouth existence, and then I would get paid back, and then I would have to use my $200 again for the next month when stipends came due. we always tried to avoid a rebellion on the part of the staff if they didn't get their stipends or their food money.
For people who might not know, what was the 232?
Well, we were in the state of Maharashtra. We were working in 232 villages, and Maliwada, of course, was the first and got most of the attention. And so we expanded into, like, there were 4 districts or 4 divisions within the state of Maharashtra, I think 26 districts, and so we just systematically spread out from Maliwada. First established 4, and then 26, and then or 23, and then roughly 10 additional village projects per village. So we theoretically we had a presence in 232 villages. Now the reality is there wasn't a whole lot going on in those 232 villages. There were things going on in probably 15 to 20 of them. And the others, it was more of a wham bam thank you ma'am form of village development. I mean, not to be too cynical, but we didn't have the resources to really make significant change in 232 villages. And we had a lot of staff and a lot of energy. I think within our division, we had like 110 people. And then some of those 110 people had spouses and children that went with them into these villages. So there may have been 400, 500 staff in Maharashtra. Now most of the staff were fairly low on the skill level pole. I mean, they were more receivers than givers. I mean, and we attempted to train them and give them some tools and skills, and but it was tough. Most of them were pretty, did not have much in the way of formal education. Now we had a team of people who were very talented and very energetic and very creative, but a lot of the staff they had just kind of been swept into this movement, and they didn't really get it. They didn't really catch on to the whole project. So there was a lot of training that we attempted, and some of it worked and some of it didn't.
What happened to you that you got it that didn't happen? Was there stuff in your journey that...
Well, as far as actually doing community development, I'm not sure I ever did get it. I mean, I'm not sure. I never felt confident that we really knew what we were doing. I mean, again, the basic principle. I mean, you know, I had been in Egypt, and in Egypt, I really was thoroughly trained as far as the basic techniques and the basic approach of tapping into the wisdom of the community. And trying to help them in getting organized to accomplish things. In Bayad, I was on the kind of on the periphery of the water project that got all the attention, but I was involved in a couple of other. We did some literacy programs. We did some baby weighing programs. We did some other. I remember I was involved in bringing the first moving pictures to the village of Bayad, and it was the family planning department for the Egyptian government brought a generator and a film projector over across the Nile to Bayad, and they started up the generator and they projected these images onto a wall in Egypt. And for 90% of the people in the village of Egypt, they had never seen moving pictures. You know, they had never seen a television or been to the movie. And so when they saw these images moving on the wall, they were mostly amused. You know, what's going on here with these lights jumping around? Oh, I think I see an image of a person on the wall. You know, what's that person doing on the wall? It was a really fascinating experience. But anyway, obviously, through my experience in Egypt, and I was directly involved in the consult. One story you need to have, that probably a lot of people can tell this story, but in the consult there in Egypt, we were trying to engage the women of the community. And of course, it's a very traditional society. I was going to say it's a Muslim, but Bayad was mostly Christian, Coptic. But the trick, and I don't know if this was Joe Matthews' idea or what, but the women had been seated at the back of the consult. So you have about 200 chairs set up, and the last couple of rows, 20 or so, were for the women. This wasn't our idea, obviously. We were trying to engage the women, but they were naturally withdrawn. And so the next day, the women took their seats, and somebody had the idea to move the front of the consult from one end to the other. And so the second day, the women were the stars because they were there up front. And that served to bring them out and elicit their participation. So, you know, it was little techniques like that we brought to the table, I think. Let's see.
Marilyn Crocker claims a wind came up and blew everything over and blew everything down. And when they went to set it back up, they just moved it to the other side to set it back up.
There may have been a wind. Yeah, it was intentional, I'm sure.
So other experiences you have in connection with the Institute, the movement, order?
Well, let's see. Just kind of fast forwarding a little bit, I can remember, summer of '84. We did meditation, and that kind of that opened up a whole new world. I also remember a discussion of the new paradigm, the idea of a different way of thinking, and that part of our task in the world had to do with introducing a new way of thinking to the world. And that image has stayed with me in a big way.
In what sense?
Well, of course, my work with mediation, and you and I have been talking about my work in mediation and conflict resolution. So this has turned out to be my day job for the last 20 or so years, is helping people to resolve conflict, but also, I think, trying to have an impact on the basic way that people resolve conflict, or the basic way that people have dialogue with one another. I think a lot of the facilitation skills that the order developed are useful in terms of facilitating a transformation in the way that people see things, the way they see the world. And related to that also is just a theme that has been real important to me. It's just the theme of we're all in it together. The picture of the Earthrise, the view of the Earth from space, the sense of connectedness as a planet, that has been a primary reference point for me personally and professionally, and thinking theologically as well. Is that beyond our, it easily slips into cliches, but beyond our differences there is a fundamental unity, and that was consistent with our theology, and it was consistent with what we were trying to do in the world. It was getting people to act on that underlying connectedness. I don't know if that's too abstract to make any sense or not, but after I left the order, I became involved with an organization called Beyond War. Can I take this real fast, Jim? I'm sorry. This Jim Stovall.